Okay, this will be our third and final video on solving multi-step equations. In this video, we're just going to work through a word problem together, making sure that you understand how to pick out the important information from the word problem and set it up as an equation so that when you try one on your own and when you're looking at others on tests and quizzes, you know how to tackle them and answer them correctly. So, we're going to start with this word problem. And my suggestion, whenever I get to a word problem, I really like to highlight or underline all the important information. I want to get rid of everything else because if I have too much stuff up there, then I get confused. So I like to try to narrow this down as much as possible. So first thing, when I'm doing a word problem here, I want to read the whole thing. So that's what I'm going to do. Read the whole problem and then go back and try to pull out the important information. Alright, so Jason bought 5 movie tickets and a bag of popcorn. Jeremy bought 2 movie tickets. They spent $54 total. If the popcorn cost $5, how much did each movie ticket cost? So the very last part of your word problem is typically your answer. And immediately what you should see from your answer is you want to know how much and movie ticket cost. That's what we've got to know. How much does each ticket cost? So go back through your word problem and start trying to identify parts of the problem that are going to be important to you. So first of all, when I'm looking at this, I just go to the very first sentence and I see, okay, we're talking about Jason. Alright, and I'm just going to include him in my highlighting because I want to make sure I've got my people separated here and then I can do what I need to from there. So Jason goes to the movie theater. Alright, he buys 5 movie tickets. So apparently Jason has lots of friends that he has taken to the movie. He's got to buy himself a ticket, so he's going to buy 4 more for them. So Jason buys 5 movie tickets. And he buys a bag of popcorn. So first of all, he's in a little bit of trouble. If he's got 4 of the friends coming with him, he only buys one bag of popcorn, he may be in trouble. But what we see there is we've got 5 movie tickets and a bag of popcorn. That's how much Jason has purchased at the movie theater. So now we look at our next person, Jeremy. Alright, Jeremy, I'll highlight him in a different color here. Jeremy is apparently going to the theater, and Jeremy buys 2 movie tickets. Alright, so Jeremy is taking one other person with him, so therefore he had to buy 2 tickets, but he's not buying any food. They must be sneaking food in or something, so they're not going to spend the money on it. So we know exactly how much or what Jason has purchased, and we know what Jeremy has purchased. We also know that they spent $54 total. Now, think about what total means. If you go to Walmart and they give you a total for your purchases, if you buy clothes and food, your total is how much you pay, which means they took everything that you had and added it together. So that's exactly what you should see and visualize when you have total. You should think addition. Okay, the total amount means I'm going to add all this together. So let's start trying to pull all of this together, just what we have highlighted here. Now I know we have more to the equation, more to the problem here, but we're just going with what we've got here right now. So Jason, alright, this is what Jason bought. Jason bought, and try to think of this in terms of algebraic expressions, 5 movie tickets. So I'm going to make movie tickets my variable t. Always know what your variable is going to be. That way, later on if someone says, well, what does t represent? You can tell them. So t in this case we're going to use for movie tickets. Okay? So he buys 5 movie tickets and that would be our addition. We need to think we're going to add to the price of these movie tickets and a bag of popcorn, which I'm going to just make that variable p. Now I know we've got 2 variables in this equation, but just for right now trying to walk ourselves through this word problem, that's what we need there. Alright, so that's Jason. So let's talk about Jeremy, who's right here in the blue. Jeremy the only thing Jeremy bought when he went to the movies was 2 movie tickets. And again, we use T for the movie tickets, so I'm going to use T. That's all Jeremy bought. Right now, with the expressions that we have for Jason and Jeremy, we do not have a clue how much money that they took with them and spent at the movie theater. So that's what we've got to figure out. They spent $54 total. And again, we talked about total being how much money they spent together, adding this together. So all I have to do here is just put a plus sign. What Jeremy spent plus, or what Jason, spent, plus what Jeremy spent equals, because their total was $54. Pretty simple so far, but the problem we have right now with our equation is we've got 2 variables. We have t's and we have a p. So we need to go back to our word problem, which I did mention earlier. We still have some information left in this word problem. Go back to our word problem, and you should see that we have one more sentence that we haven't completed here, and that is the popcorn cost $5. The popcorn was $5. So since we know up here, we made ourselves a little note that P represented our popcorn, think about your properties. Substitution property says that we can, in place of P, use 5, because that's how much the popcorn actually was. So I'm going to rewrite this equation here. We still don't know how much the movie tickets are, but that should make sense to you. Think about what your equation's asking, or your question is asking. How much for movie tickets? So it's very understandable why we still have our variable t for tickets. We haven't solved for that yet. Plus 5 in place of our p for our popcorn, plus Jeremy's 2 tickets is going to give us $54 total. And so now we actually have an equation based on that word problem that we can solve. Multi-step equation. So multi-step equations, when you look at this, look for like terms. And you should automatically see like terms here. We've talked about an example that looked very similar to this. We have a 5t here, and we have a 2t. Actually, I need to include the plus sign in front of that 2t because we need to make sure that we understand that that's a positive 2t or plus 2t. Means the same thing. So 5t plus 2t on the same side of the equal sign, so I'm just going to add them together. So 5 plus 2 gives you 7t. So together they bought 7 tickets, plus the $5 for the popcorn equals $54. Solving 2-step equation. It's a positive or plus 5, so the inverse would be to subtract 5 from both sides. Positive 5 minus 5 does give you 0. I'm going to write my work up here. So I am left with 7t there on the left hand side of my equal sign, and then 54 minus 5 will leave you with 49. And then the opposite or inverse operation of multiplying by 7 would be to divide by 7. So 7 divided by 7 gives you 1. So I have 1t equals 7. So the ticket price is $7. And it would be good practice if you actually write out the tickets, or the movie tickets were $7 a piece or each. A very short statement, just summing up what your T represents and what your number, your solution there represents. So solving equations, setting up and solving equations from your word problem. Alright, so let's look at this example. What I want you to do is pause the video and read through this word problem and try to set it up based on the way we did the last one. Alright, hopefully you're coming back from working through this word problem on your own. And I'm gonna highlight, but hopefully you can follow along. These are pretty simple word problems, but let's go through here. And you should have already read this word problem, so you know what it says. So now, if you're not real sure what you should have pulled from this word problem, let's start doing some highlighting here. So first of all, we have Noah and Kate, and they're shopping for new guitar strings. So they're together, and they're shopping for guitar strings. So first sentence is just some good information, but not really necessary for your equation. So what you need to know, Noah bought 2 packs of strings. Alright, so we know what he purchased when he went into the store. He bought 2 packs of strings. When Kate went into this store, she bought 2 packs of strings also, and a music book. So she spent a little more money than Noah did. Now, the very next sentence is very helpful. It tells us that the book cost $16. So we know right offhand, since Kate's the one that bought the book, we know that she spent at least $16 because she is the one that bought the music book. And the total cost is $72. So even though they bought 2 separate things, they went ahead and paid for it together. So it was $72. No tax at this store. So very important here, how much is 1 pack of strings? So this is very, very similar to our tickets in the last equation. So let's start with Noah. Alright, I'm just going to put a big N here. This is what Noah purchased. All he bought was 2 packs of strings. So again, you want to label, S is going to represent my strings. That's all he purchased, 2 packs of strings. Kate purchased 2 packs of strings. Now we've already used our S to represent strings, so they're buying the same kind of strings at this store. So she bought 2 packs of strings. But then she also bought a music book. Now, just to kind of shorten your work here a little bit differently than the last word problem, we just talked about how Kate bought a book, and we know how much it is. We know she bought a book for 16 bucks. So, instead of adding plus B for book, we can go ahead and add plus 16 because we know that book was $16. It told us that. And then the very next thing it tells us, because this is designed pretty simply, straightforward here, this word problem, their total cost is their total. So when they went to the register and the cashier rang them up, they bought this together. So when you add these together for the total, the cost was $72. So you have your word problem in equation form. So from here, you just need to make sure that you identify what are my like terms. In this case, it's pretty simple because they are actually side by side. 2S, because it's 2 strings, plus 2S, which is 2 more packs of strings, meant that they bought 4 packs of strings total, plus the $16 for that book equals $72. So 2-step equation. The inverse operation for plus 16 is minus 16. So make sure you subtract 16 from the left-hand side and then move over to the right-hand side and subtract 16. You have a positive 16 minus 16, so that does give you 0. So again, I'm going to write my work over here. 4S is what we have left on the left-hand side, equals, and 72 minus 16 gives you 56. So last thing you have to do is just inverse operation of multiplying by 4 would be to divide by 4. So S equals 14. So the strings were $14 per pack. And again, you would want to write a very short statement explaining that. Now, on the next slide, this is your summary, so please pause the video and answer your summary questions on your notes.